Welcome to another episode of Your Stories. Today we have a lovely lady called Stacey Dix, and she's joining me from Austin, Texas. And she has a long story of fatigue and other symptoms that she's going to share with us in a moment. But she's come through many struggles, and she's not completely out of the woods yet, but she's come so far in her story and she's started to feel like she's got her life back. So I thought it'd be a beautiful opportunity to bring her in and hear from her. She has such an inspiring recovery story. So I'm going to let her in the room and she can tell us in her own words exactly how that went for her and where she's at now. Let's see. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, darling. Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, me too. I just gave a really short intro into a little bit about your fatigue story, where you're from, but I didn't want to say too much because I think everything comes better right from your own story in your own mouth. So do you want to just take us back a little bit to where things started for you, where you started to, well, how you know now, where your symptoms might have started, what was kind of going on for you around that time, and yeah, any sort of detail you want to give us is great. I'm sure it'll resonate with many people. So just take us back a little bit and start from there if you can.
Sure. So I guess although my TMS probably started way back, like in my 20s, I didn't notice anything until I got whacked upside the head and I woke up one day with horrendous fatigue, and that's kind of when life changed, and that was 2003.
And that was just overnight, you said?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I woke up one morning, I felt like I had the flu, and went to the doctor, got tested for mono, and just started all these, endless rabbit hole doctor appointments.
Yeah.
A few months later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue.
Wow.
Which at the time, it was just so devastating because I was like active, working full time in the gym every day. And you go from, 24/7, just full speed ahead to just nothing, like on the couch. And I mean, the fear that comes with that, that comes with losing your life as you know it.
Yeah. And it's such an invisible sort of, I mean, a lot of TMS symptoms are invisible, but especially fatigue as well. That you can't say, oh, this hurts or that hurts. It's just like you can't do anything.
And I think that was one of the hardest parts of my health journey is having chronic fatigue. It's hard to explain to people, like they don't really understand fatigue. They're like, just people say, well, just can't you keep pushing through and
have a coffee or something?
They can't wrap their head around that you just cannot just even get through a day.
Right.
I used to explain it like feeling like I had the flu 24/7 and just kind of feeling like you're moving through quicksand that's like turning in. So yeah, that started November 2003. My husband and I had just moved across the country. Well, we were engaged at the time. Mm-hmm. We got engaged, moved across the country because he was in the Navy for 21 years. So we moved across from Virginia to San Diego. Mm-hmm. And a couple months later, my health went in the toilet. Not to say that that was like the thing. It could have been the thing that pushed everything
over the top. Yeah.
I just couldn't handle it. Couldn't keep it inside anymore. Whatever was going on. So it's been a 17-year journey for me. So over the next 17 years, I was diagnosed with centralized sensitization syndrome, which if anyone's heard of that, it's kind of like CRPS. You're just your nerves, your skin, everything.
Like sensitivities. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sensitivity is like through the roof. Lyme disease, IBS, candida, low iron, low thyroid, MTHFR, like severe headaches where I even had MRIs done, like thinking there was a tumor or something.
Yeah.
I would say hundreds of doctors over 17 years and tens of thousands of dollars spent. I mean, I'm sure
Wow.
all of you listening can relate. It's just a money sucker.
Yeah, for sure.
I do remember always trying to find like what's the treatment that's going to fix me.
Sure.
I mean, it makes sense when your life has ended as you know it, and you're just Googling what can help me, what my symptoms, and I went to Fibromyalgia Centers of America when I started out. I've been on every kind of diet known to man. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any diet I haven't done, but the problem is every diet made me sicker. Like,
Right.
and I've always been a healthy eater in the fitness industry and love fitness probably since high school. And, when they took every ounce of sugar out, everything that might have been enjoyable to
Yeah.
a degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I went from my already thin self and lost like another 10, 15 pounds. And I was miserable.
Right, and there's the fear attached to that as well, right? So you're constantly vigilant of what you're putting in your body and constantly calculating and checking ingredients and all of that. That's enough to send you into a spiral on its own.
Totally. And when you said that makes me think back because in college I had an eating disorder
Okay.
and not easily classified other than that I was afraid to eat anything with fat in it. So at that time, I just remember like going for like bagels and anything that had like more than a gram of fat. I was terrified of it.
Right.
Um, I remember when my parents came to my graduation party or came to graduation, and soon after I got home, they said, we hugged you, and there just wasn't much there. Like,
Oh,
will you consider going to therapy? We'll go with you.
okay.
And I said, yeah. And that was, oh man, I probably did that on and off for 10 years at least. And it's taken me a long time to get to the other end of the spectrum where, well, I know so much more now, and
Yeah.
knowledge is power, but that we need healthy fats. We need all those things in our diet. And um, so that was a pretty devastating part of my journey too, because anyone that suffers from an eating disorder, it is also all consuming.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
all I can think about is what am I eating? How can I eat less today? That's just another way of controlling something else that's out of control.
Right.
Yes, I did every kind of diet. I think probably like everyone listening, I've gone to every single specialist on earth between naturopaths. I had Reiki done. I've seen infectious disease, gastroenterologist. I had every kind of test a gastro could do, tubes down, up, all over.
Right.
Hormone specialist. I was told by gastroenterologists that I have functional dyspepsia, which I think is just a way of saying you got a lot of stomach pain, but we don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
We can't figure it out.
Kind of like most diagnoses that you've mentioned, right?
Yeah,
It's like you have this
yeah,
stuff and you have this stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember at one point just eating oatmeal. It was the only thing I could get down that wouldn't hurt my stomach, like probably for a
Wow.
month or two straight. Um, so yeah, and then at that point the gastroenterologist put me on an antidepressant because he explained that most serotonin is in the gut and
Right.
that it would help with the gut function, help me feel better. And I tried everything herbal. I was like fighting the meds and I finally just gave in and it helped. So I was like, all right. So I did that for 10 years. And at the same time as I'm going through my healing journey, gosh, I started getting chronic neck and low back pain, like around 2000.
Okay.
Intermittent shoulder pain. I think I thought it was just due to my workouts. I've always been a gym rat, and
Yeah.
but I was always able to like work out around it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, baby it a little bit, keep working out, whatever. Um, and I say like keep working out like through the 17 years with chronic fatigue. I always tried to do something like
Yeah.
whether it was a light workout, I always tried to at least walk, even at my worst when my husband would be at work and then he would come home and I was on the couch all day. I made myself get up and we would go and walk the dog and just go outside, and
Yeah.
that was like the only activity for a day that I could do and come home and just crash.
That's heavy, man.
It's just,
So heavy.
yeah. So, gosh, about 2008, so about 5 years into my health stuff, after I've been chasing every doctor,
Yeah.
we did get married. I I think both of us were scared because of my illness. We did not know the impact that it would have on our marriage.
Yeah.
Um, it was almost like a leap of faith kind of thing. You know, we wanted to be together despite, but I remember the fear and the guilt and the shame that I had because when I met my husband, I was totally vibrant and lively and
Right.
the crazy funny girl. And, you know, after this happened, I almost feel like I changed into another person.
I can so relate to that.
And don't you feel like I just felt so much shame and guilt, like that it had happened to me, even
Yeah.
though I knew I didn't cause it and like, oh, I'm going to bring this on myself. I just felt so responsible because,
Well, definitely. And also like thinking, I don't know if this is for you, same for you, but thinking also like, wow, my partner really didn't sign up for this.
yep.
You know, like
Oh,
it's so hard on them as well.
yeah, and that in itself, just like your relationship with your significant other is enough um, stress in itself of your health issues, um,
Yeah.
sorting through that, not to mention like financial stress on top of it.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah.
And I know at many points he he would see that treatments weren't helping me.
Mm.
And so he would try to be very rational with me and say, okay, well, this hasn't helped. And why do we want to keep chasing treatments and things?
Sure.
And I would come back totally defensive and really crushed and hurt because I thought, well, gosh, this is my life. I have to fight for it. Like
Yeah.
I have to keep trying the next thing because I just
Yeah.
can't give up. So I'm sure anybody listening has gone through that just
Mm.
horribly hard thing to balance with your relationship.
Yeah,
So
it is. It is. And only really, it's different as well, don't you think, that now you've come through a lot of this stuff, not to sort of jump ahead at all, but like you can only really realize how much of a struggle that was when you've really come through it. Like, fuck, it's so tough. It's
yeah,
really tough, especially when you don't really know what's going on.
yeah,
Like maybe that changes. I don't know what your partner's like, but my partner's very problem solver and very
yeah,
solution based person. You know, he sees an issue and he wants to fix it and he wants to make sure you're okay. And but again, if they, like you said, if they don't see results and they don't see it's working, then they only see it as more stress on you. So maybe we should stop. And it's
mhm.
such a difficult balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially, it just makes me think of the thousands of dollars we spent in supplements. I mean, every naturopath was like, "Oh, I found this in your blood and
Yeah.
this in your blood, and take these supplements." And I have a supplement graveyard. It is. I don't have a lot of them anymore because I've weeded through them, but that alone could make me feel shameful.
For
Like,
real,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
all this stuff. Not to mention it's not working.
All right, right.
So
And God knows what it's doing to your body. I mean, a lot of it's natural, like you said, but you know, all those different treatments and different diets, and I mean, your body must have just been like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the fear. And so, yeah, now you know, you can kind of see how all that stuff was affecting as well.
Yeah. I could see how I lived in fear, but when I think that's so natural when you don't know what's happening to yourself,
Yeah,
you feel
sure.
like your body's being assaulted
Yeah.
and you feel like your body's against you. I felt
Yeah.
that way like the whole time. I think the fear is just a natural response. It's just that mechanism that,
Yeah, of course. It's survival, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. So after we got married, so before that, I had been my work, before I became ill in 2003, I'd been in the marketing and advertising industry
Mm-hmm.
for a good 10 to 12 years. And getting sick made me stop cold in my tracks. I had to totally quit work. But
Right.
interestingly, because I've always had a love for fitness, in 2008, I started pursuing my true love, which is fitness. And I went for my personal trainer certification, and then right after my group fitness certification.
How
So,
did you do that when you were feeling so rubbish?
um, well, the fatigue really kind of waxed and waned throughout.
Right.
It never went away, but there were some points where I could function a lot better. Some months and years even were just better in general than others. So,
I
but
wonder whether there's any correlation between you pursuing something you really loved and enjoyed and working in that kind of industry and learning and all that sort of stuff, whether that was like anything to do with the symptom relief in a way around that time, do you think?
yeah, it could have been. Um, I think for sure that it helped because even though I was dealing with the symptoms at the time, I got my certifications. I was working at a gym part time, was doing
Mm,
personal training. I started teaching little bits of classes or parts of a class. You
great.
know, I might jump in and do the abs portion of my friend's class or something. So,
Right, nice.
um, yeah, my heart and my soul felt very full that I could pursue something I really
Yeah,
love.
that's amazing. That
So
is
that,
such a blessing that you were able to do that.
yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
And a blessing that my husband had, a good enough job that
Yeah,
we didn't depend on my income.
yeah,
In no way was I obviously happy or okay with not contributing
sure.
to income, but just thank God that he could carry us
For
all this
real.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Plus, fitness is not like a great moneymaker.
Right. You're doing that for
So,
the enjoyment of it mostly, right?
labor of
Yeah.
love.
I hear
um,
that.
so in 2011, I was working at a studio, a fitness studio, and I got hurt pretty bad on the gym floor. If anyone's familiar with TRX, two
Yeah. Oh, that's horrifying. I had nightmares about TRX. I tried that once or twice and oh my days. No, thank you.
no, thanks, I'll stick to yoga.
For
Um,
real.
I was I was demonstrating to a client how to do a certain move, and to give you a vision, only my heels were on the floor. So I had both straps
Like,
interlaced,
yeah, like
and
these ones, right?
yeah, them interlaced in my hands, and then I was leaning all the way back, or like a slant, like a 45-degree slant, and just my
Yeah.
heels on the floor. I was twisting a twisting motion, and at one point the handle came loose. They just entwined.
Oh,
One
shit.
one flew to the ceiling, the other was still in my hand, and I went on the floor like, and you know how hard a gym floor is.
Yeah.
I hit my tailbone, my entire back, my head, um, and
Wow.
I just remember one minute I was moving, and the next I was looking up at the ceiling, and I was like, what the hell happened?
Super shock to the body and the mind, right? Yeah.
And so understandably, that created a ton of fear. and I'd already had like some low back stuff going on before that, which, like I said, I could always work out around it. But now I'm like, oh, I've had an injury. Like, oh crap,
Yeah.
I got to fix this injury and get rehab and stuff. So, oh my gosh, that started tons of physical therapy, which by the way never helped.
Yeah.
I've probably gone to a minimum of 10 to 12 physical therapists over the years. None ever helped me. I don't know why I kept going
I
because
know. You don't have any other option though, do you,
you don't know
really?
what to do.
Mm.
You're like, okay, I'll try that again.
Yeah, you believe them as well, yeah.
Yeah. Um, this is a little graphic, but I'm sure somebody has been there. I had manual tailbone manipulation. So they go inside, they try to move it to the correct
Oh, what?
place. And
Stacey.
that didn't help, but I was convinced it would because he said it would. He said my tailbone was like bent under and we just had to
Oh,
pull it
babe.
back and put it in the right place. The same place I had epidurals and injections into my tailbone. Never helped.
Oh,
Um,
that sent shivers up my spine, that. Oh, babe, that's horrible.
and, and so you can imagine the pain and fear
Yeah.
with anything related to my tailbone, which is basically your whole low back area, right?
Right, right.
You got to sit, you got to bend. Um,
And it's in contact with everything as well when you're seated.
yeah,
Your sacrum is like all
it's
of
not
that
like your
area. It's
arms
like your
where you can just,
whole, yeah, your
yeah,
whole pelvis, basically. Yeah.
totally.
Oh, yeah.
So that continued or increased attention to that area. Before it was like low back, and they always thought maybe something's wrong with my SI joint. I had L5, S1, SI joint injections. No one really knew what the
Yeah.
issue, where the origin was. So they were
Right.
just like going for all the parts around it. Um, so yeah, yeah, I probably had 15 to 18 injections all over my back. And
What was that? Was that steroid or like
yes,
muscle relaxant
there,
or what?
yeah, steroid, cortisone, and whatever equivalent they use.
Yeah.
I think number one, to numb the area, see if that was the correct area. If they got relief, they would know they were on the right thing, on the right area.
Fucking hell.
At one point, a couple years ago, we were looking at my hip, and eventually I'm like, it's not my hip. It's near the middle of me. Why are you looking at my hip? And why do you want to do injections into my hip? Like, that's finally when I said no, no, no 20th injection. It's not,
Fuck, that's
not,
crazy.
you know.
Oh, man.
So I continued at doing PT, personal training at gyms over the years. Most times I could still work around the pain.
Mm.
In 2016, actually, I was doing so well that I thought I was healed. I mean, I just, I was, I was like, this is amazing. And I couldn't tell you exactly why. I do know that I was doing a few gym jobs at the time, so maybe I was just happy where I was.
Yeah.
Um,
Happy and distracted.
yeah, I was working at Orange Theory. I was instructor there. I loved it. I was working at some kind of club, like frou fancy club gym, and it was just fun. Um, but honestly, I almost think, I don't know if it was just too much on my nervous system. Fall of 2016, I just continued to get sicker and weaker. I almost wonder if it was doing the Orange Theory workouts. I really pushed myself because I worked there. They're very intense workouts. And I think I felt that I had to show up and be
Yeah.
this person as the
Yeah.
instructor that worked there. Like
Self pressure.
I had to prove to everyone else, well, she's the coach. She has to be able to do it too.
Yeah, that was hugely triggering for me, that self pressure as well. I can totally relate to that.
The perfectionist
Yeah.
inside me has probably been there probably since I could around the time I could speak my first words.
Right.
It's just like ingrained.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting unfortunately very sick. Fall 2016, I was working 2 or 3 gym jobs at that time. I quit everything. All I
Yeah.
could do, Danny, was just be home. I prayed. I didn't know what else to do. I like
Yeah.
walked around the house. My husband worked. I just prayed. I cried. What do? You just hope.
Yeah. What can
Hope,
you do?
hope for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And then not too long after that, I was so sick in 2017 that I left my home, my dogs, my husband to go to out of state to a treatment for 7 months. Um, this kind of treatment involved colonics
Okay.
and enemas every single day. They were convinced that it was like pathogens and toxins and chemicals that needed to be flushed out of me. And I bought into that because, we visited them, we drove, it felt like a very good fit. Honestly, I thought God was leading me there because
Right.
I found out about it through another godly person, and I thought God's just telling me to go there.
Okay.
And so, you can imagine, like, you're away from home, you're in another state, you're away from your husband,
Yeah.
and you're miserable enough, and then you're getting poked and prodded in the bottom end, like, continuously, like you're a pin, a pin.
Yeah.
pin.
Pincushion. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can laugh a little now because it's behind me, but that was extremely horrific.
I mean, that's probably traumatizing in itself, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was told parasites and pathogens would be flushed out and it would be totally better. And they helped so many people with my conditions. And I knew and talked to people that had gotten better. So I thought, why not me? I'll get
Yeah.
better too.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Why would I be different?
Hmm.
But I came back home in the same condition. And I remember Russ, my husband, saying, seems like you're kind of like in the same place or worse than when you went.
And
And
also emotionally drained, right? You must have been
mhm,
just so devastated that that didn't work for you.
yeah, I think both of us, and besides, the money that it took, it wasn't, I've talked to him about it, it wasn't even the money so much, but being apart, changing your life. And he
Yeah.
was, he was going through a horrible job at the time and I couldn't be there for him. I had
Yeah. Yeah.
so much going on myself. So, okay, so that happened. And then by 2018, it just keeps going down. I promise I come back up, but
Yeah, there's a light at the end of this tunnel,
I
everyone. Keep
promise I'll get
watching.
better.
Yeah, we know where
20,
this ends for you, so this is good. Yeah, it's good stuff, though. It's good stuff. Don't worry, carry on.
2018 was probably the worst year of my life. 2018 to 2019. I had continued to get sicker, and I'd had breast implants from 2010 to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also sick before I got them put in. I
Mm-hmm.
got sick back in '03, and I knew that the implants didn't make me sick or cause any of the stuff physiologically, but I started researching because I became aware that so many women were getting breast implant illness.
Illness. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, a friend of mine had that.
And I knew friends going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a big red flag and a wake up call to myself. And I thought, even if they didn't cause my issues, like, I just feel like I need to get them out because they're
Yeah.
not making me better. They're
Right.
not, the only thing they could possibly be doing is keeping my health down.
Right.
I did so much research. And then, as us TMSers do, I became obsessed with, I got to get them out. I got to get them out. I got to get them out. They're making me sick. And,
Yeah.
so I got them out in fall of 2018. And oh my gosh, that's a horrific operation because you have like drains attached to you to try to
Mm-hmm.
drain everything out afterwards. You have
Mm-hmm.
those drains like coming out of your chest for a week. And unfortunately, about 4 days later, I had to have a hemorrhoidectomy surgery emergency because the pain meds they gave me
Oh my
from
God.
the breast explant, and I'd had like history of hemorrhoids, but never was like a problem. I just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
come and
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I guess the pain meds, I mean, shoot, your chest is cut open. It's pretty painful. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the pain meds.
Yeah, for sure.
They gave me the most severe hemorrhoids that at this point my mom was in town taking care of me so my husband could work, and she rushed me to the doctor, and he looked at me and he goes, we need to operate tomorrow morning. You
Wow.
need to be in the hospital. And I just broke down crying because I said, I can't go through another operation. I just got operated on. Like here I am thinking anesthesia, like it's going to destroy my body.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, don't worry. I have patients that are operated on 5, 6 times, like in a row, and it's fine. They do fine. And I'm thinking, but you don't know my body. You don't
Yeah,
know
you're already
me
feeling
so
super
weak.
weak. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already like so weak from this operation, but I had to have it done. There was no way to take care of the issue without it. Um, and I will say, in case I'm sure anyone that's had an issue in that area or an operation, um, that was worse recovery than the breast explant surgery.
Wow, really? God.
Because I would not wish that on anybody. So I'll just leave that there. So you can imagine 2 operations fall of 2018, and my body started to totally crumble and break down. And I, I didn't know if I was dying. Like I started developing, by the next month, I started developing pain all over. I couldn't walk. I could barely walk from one room to the other in my house. I had such burning on the bottom of my feet, tingling and burning that, I mean, I was just in tears walking from one room to the next. My husband didn't know if I had mental issues. He didn't know what to do with me. At one point, I called my parents. It was 4 a.m. in the morning. It was 4 a.m. and they answered. And I said, Mom, you got to come take care of me. I said,
Yeah.
so you can imagine, like, I wasn't
That's
sure if
like rock bottom, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was dying. My mom's like, I'll pack. I'm coming as soon as possible. My husband had already taken a couple of days off work. He's like, I have to go to work. I'll lose my job.
Right.
So thankfully, my parents are retired. Mom came right away. She was there for a couple of weeks. At this point, it was Thanksgiving. And we lived in a little town in Alabama at the time. My husband's out of the Navy at this point, and the doctors there were a joke. I mean, they didn't know what to do with me. So we all decided I would go back with my mom up to where she lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, because it's a big city, lots of doctors. So we're like, okay, I'm going to go to Charlotte, see some specialists, and get this figured out. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Enough is enough now.
Yeah. So I went, and basically they took care of me. Um, they drove me to doctors. I'm trying to remember what kind of specialist, rheumatoid specialist, back specialist, nerve pain specialist, and nobody could find anything.
Wow.
So, yeah, well, that is good news. It didn't feel like good news. It just
No,
felt
you want
like,
a solution, don't you? You just become desperate, don't you? Desperate.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like my parents didn't know what to do with me. My husband didn't know what to do with me. At this point, I started looking into Mayo Clinic because I'm like, they are some top-notch doctors.
Sure.
And I mean, there's a few Mayo clinics in the state, and I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's like applying to college.
Okay.
You got to fill out an intense application. And only if they decide to approve your application, then you have to get on a waiting list, which was a few months for me. I mean, just getting approved in the first place, that took a few months to get accepted. I tried once and I got shot down, and then I tried again, and I was like, boom, I was in.
Wow.
So that was, I don't know, like an 8-hour drive from where my parents lived. Yeah, mom drove me down to Florida. At this point, I was in a wheelchair. I know you were too. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk in the doctor's office. I couldn't walk in the store. I could barely walk in the house. Um, and I just remember like being wheeled around Mayo Clinic by my mom thinking, what's my life come to?
Yeah.
What is this? It's not a life.
No, it's not. It's tragic. That's awful. I remember, yeah, the worst feelings that I had were when I had to use a wheelchair, which wasn't like I didn't go anywhere, so it wasn't that often. But if we ever traveled or had to go through airports or anywhere had to stand for very long, then yeah, there was no way I would be able to do it otherwise. But I think I saw myself reflected in a window somewhere in a wheelchair and was just like probably the most devastating point of my whole life. Just like, what the fuck has happened?
Yeah, you wonder, like I thought all the time, like, how did I get to this point where
Yeah.
I'm a health and fitness enthusiast? I
And
eat
no answers
healthy.
either. Like
It
no
didn't make
answers.
no, it didn't make sense. And I
No.
thought at that point you feel so out of control of your own body and your own life. You don't know what the hell.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
at this point, I mean, I was about to give up. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah,
Mayo
understandably.
the Mayo Clinic, I was there, I think, for 5 days. They ran a barrage of tests from, stomach stuff, nerve stuff. I was diagnosed with centralized sensitization syndrome, which is what like fibromyalgia fall under,
Yeah.
diagnosed with chronic fatigue, just nerve sensitization stuff. They said I had pelvic floor dysfunction. So I left with all these labels and diagnoses and just more anger. I was so mad. I was because I felt so misunderstood.
Yeah.
I was like, don't give me a label of fibromyalgia again. That's just a bullshit label because you're just labeling me because you don't know what to do about
Yeah,
it.
there's no solution there, is there? There's no the
Just take
diagnosis
a
doesn't mean
label.
anything in the end.
Yeah. So that was rock bottom.
Yeah.
I I was in so much pain. I couldn't sit. I couldn't lie down. The only time I didn't have pain was when I was asleep, and I took sleep meds because at this point
Well, yeah.
I've been on sleep meds since I got sick. So unfortunately, my body just couldn't sleep without them.
Mm.
But it's the only time I could get relief and try to heal.
Yeah, for sure.
And I begged God time and time again to just take me in my sleep because
Oh, babe.
I thought, what I'm alive, but I'm not living.
No,
Like
it's not a life, is it?
I'm just existing.
Oh shit.
So that was rock bottom. But the good news is I started to climb back up. That's kind of the time Curable somehow flashed across my screen on Facebook
Yes.
or
Yeah, me too.
something.
They got their advertising bang on, haven't they? That's
So
awesome.
um, yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh, I'll buy this, I'll pay for this app, it's for a year, why not? And
Yeah.
I did it a little, I dabbled and I didn't stay with it and I wasn't consistent. I was like, then I found out about Curable groups, the
Mm-hmm.
12-week boot camp, and I signed up. It's expensive, but I knew I had to do something like major at this point. Um, and that was kind of the impetus or the springboard for finding TMS and Nicole Sachs and
Yeah.
Buglio and everything that I think that really helped me.
Right.
So, gosh, that was like a year and a half ago. And the
Okay.
boot camp was 12 weeks long. And this is funny, but I think in the group, or there's 10 people in a group, and it's like moderated by psychologists and doctors and stuff. My group still meets on our own like almost 2 years later, and we meet every 2 weeks, and we are super tight knit, and we're the only group I've heard that's still together.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we just meet and we share resources, and we're like our own TMS, like cheerleading squad for each other.
I love that. That's awesome. It's really nice to have that direct contact with people, isn't it? I'm finding that in my yoga classes now. It's like face-to-face contact makes such a difference.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the encouragement, like someone else is
Right.
going through the exact same thing as you, or parallel enough to be able to encourage you, or like the same principles.
Yeah, just be there for you. It's amazing how much that connection really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we stay in touch on WhatsApp, and then we meet every 2 weeks on Zoom, and yeah, so that's kind of fun to tell
Amazing.
that story. Yeah.
So you did curable groups, and then when did you start to notice things starting to shift for you? Because I remember you reaching out to me a while ago. Now, it must have been a few months ago, definitely. It seems like a long time ago to me, when you were just kind of still really struggling with the fatigue and just like it wasn't shifting. And
I
so
think
what changed for you?
yeah, I think I have to look back to our messages, but I want to say maybe I reached out to you maybe somewhere around the beginning of the year, last
Yeah.
year, because I knew I was really struggling at that point. I had completed the curable group, but oh, that's right. So in February, I went, so almost a year ago,
Yeah.
exactly a year ago, I
Yeah.
went to Nicole and Dr. Stracks workshop
Ah,
in
yeah, Chicago
Chicago.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously I got to meet Nicole. While I was there, I made a side appointment with Dr. Stracks and got evaluated by him. So
Awesome.
thank God I had the brains to think of that. Okay, you're going to be in Chicago. Go see Dr. Stracks.
Definitely.
So um, I saw him, I think, the day before the workshop, and he felt very strongly that everything I had was TMS.
Amazing. God, that must have felt just like a miracle, right?
It did. It felt like so validating.
Yeah.
And
Such a relief you must have felt
yeah,
that journey and that visit that you did at that time.
yeah, I felt like just flying over there and seeing him and going to the workshop it was so worth not just the money, but the energy.
Yeah.
I was terrified to go. I couldn't sit. And
Right.
I remember posting in Nicole's group, I really want to go to the conference. I'm terrified of sitting on a plane. I don't know what to do. And Nicole was like, do it. She's like, even if you're hurting, so what?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Just got to do it.
you're gonna learn stuff, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, I got to do this. And that was really liberating for me to take that leap,
Yeah,
because that gave me confidence. I'm like,
for
I went to
sure.
Chicago by myself. I sat on a plane. I sat in a workshop all freaking weekend. Um, and of course, with that comes the empowerment of connecting with all these other people that are there in
Yeah.
the same boat as you.
Yeah, amazing.
So it just kind of felt like you're with your tribe for a little bit there.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I came back home, I was like, okay, I got that under my belt. Like I did that for myself, and it gave me confidence. And slowly, Danny, just talking to you, watching Nicole stuff like every day, following Dan Buglio, messaging Dan. I started reading Steve Ozanich by then, which this is funny, but we just were on a long road trip. I'll get to that in a minute, but I just finished his book. I think I had it for like 8 months. I would read a little bit at a time.
It's a heavy read though, isn't it? It's a big book,
And
yeah.
I'm like, when I finished it this weekend, I'm like, thank God. Like I wish I just put through before, because it's a really good book.
Yes.
But when I came back, I just started implementing the principles everyone was teaching. I started doing outcome independence.
Right.
And I would say, fine, I really want to go work in the yard with my husband. I'm going to go work in the yard. And just knowing that I was going to try, no matter how it turned out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how it turned out. You're going to give it a go.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
in that feeling of like I'm contributing again to my family, contributing to the workload and stuff,
Yes.
huge for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact like that I was out in the heat, and the heat has always, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but the heat has always been really hard on my body. Like it just, woof, it just deflates me like a tire.
I mean,
Uh,
especially with fatigue as well. The
yeah,
heat just makes you like you don't want to do anything. You don't want to go outside. Just sit indoors in the air conditioning. And
yeah.
yeah, I can relate to that.
But maybe you can relate to kind of like the struggle with your brain of saying, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go try this. But your brain's like, no, no, just stay here. You
Yeah,
don't want
yeah. You can almost hear its little voice, can't you? Keeping you safe.
to.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just started, I started with yard work, and next time I went and did it, I did more. And then, eventually I was doing 2 hours of yard work, and then eventually 4 hours of yard work. And every time I did more and tried again, I got more confidence. I'm like, I did that, I can do this.
Amazing.
It feeds the fuel of empowerment and
Yeah.
confidence. And I really want to explain to people that, many of us get to the point where we're in so much pain, we're terrified to move, right? I mean, that was you with yoga.
Yeah.
Here I am, a personal trainer, fitness instructor, and I'm so terrified to bend at the waist. And I was full of so much shame and guilt because I'm a fitness instructor and a personal trainer, and I can't figure out how to get myself back in shape.
Right.
Like, I was terrified. I was
Mhm.
paralyzed by fear. Um, but somewhere in that was born like, enough of this shit. I am not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care if it takes me a year or two or whatever. I am going to get back. And so I started with 5 minutes on the bed of yoga nidra. And,
Mhm.
I'm on my soft little mattress, not, just comfortable. And 10 minutes of gentle. And it took me months to work from gentle yoga. I use the Down Dog yoga app,
Mhm.
and I'm in love with it because you can customize every part of your
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah.
And I just went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15. And then, right now I've climbed up from like gentle, and then there's level one and level two. I think I'm at level 4 out of 5. So I'm at like
Amazing.
intermediate two, and the only other level is advanced.
Amazing.
Um, and
And how
so,
long, what was the time period then, would you say, from finding the work, starting the work, and then doing the yard work and doing the yoga? What sort of, not to that necessarily
yeah,
anybody's journey is comparable to anyone else, but just to get an idea of the timeline, what sort of, how long
yeah,
was
we actually moved into our house at the end of April. And I remember thinking, Danny, before we moved, like everything's going to change when I get to my new house. Like
Yeah,
it's going to be the new birth.
yeah,
Uh, that's when I started at the end of April. I started yoga for 5, 10 minutes on the bed. I probably started the yard work like in May,
okay,
and at the same time, I would go out. I hadn't sat on a bicycle in years because of my butt pain, but I got on it for 5 minutes and I celebrated. I was
yeah.
like,
I
yeah,
remember the post you put on Facebook when you'd been out on your bike. I love the updates you've been adding. It's like, no way, you're doing yard work. You couldn't even like stand up a few weeks ago. It's amazing. I love
so
it.
I would say probably the end of April. So April, May, and just doing more and more like
Just
every
gradually though, no?
yeah,
Yeah.
super gradual.
Mm.
And I looked at each weekend, I tried to find something that my husband and I could do that would give me more confidence. It would be like
Mhm.
a fun project for me, whether it was yard work or start like a long walk or a hike. I also started
Yeah.
hiking again.
Amazing.
Now I'm up to an hour and a half hiking up rocky terrain. on the weekend. I mean, like,
Wow.
that's what I always hoped would happen.
Your dogs must be loving that as well, like mummy's back in
Yeah,
business.
they're totally, yeah, they're in their element.
I
But
love that.
I think I'm in my element hiking more. I'm always like,
Yeah.
honey, we're doing it. Honey, look, it's so fun. He's like, sure, it's fun, whatever.
Yeah. Throw me a stick. I love it.
So some of the other things that helped me in my, especially over the past year. So along with outcome independence, we know how important mindset is of
Mm.
indifference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, my back is pissed off. Well, whatever. I mean, I can either sit around the house and be afraid, or I can go out and sit in a kayak, which doesn't feel wonderful, but I'm out on the beautiful water and I'm out with my husband. And so, yeah, I'm going to do that instead. You
Yeah.
know,
Awesome.
it was just that kind of stuff where, and I'm still telling my back or my butt when it gets angry, whatever. I gotta sit here. I gotta study. I gotta do my day, and I'm not going to turn my day upside down for
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's sort of leading your day with enjoyment as well,
that.
and love and fun, rather than kind of giving in to that's probably the wrong way to put it, not giving into it, but
Right.
leaning into the fear and the pain and that sort of wallowing in the
Yeah.
sofa and all that kind of thing, which is it's the comforting, safe place to do, or some choice to take, isn't it? When you're so used to that as your comfort place. But that's so brave to just go like, no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually do that. It's amazing.
I think it's a combination of because I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to school and learning all the TMS. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
But it's also a combination of getting so fed up with where I was at that I did not want to put up with it anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I can't explain, I'm sure everyone understands, when you just feel like you can't. You feel like you can't make yourself get up. You feel like you can't possibly go outside and go try to do something when you feel like total shit.
Yeah.
But knowing that that is the way out, it is not the way out to stay in bed and to
Right.
stay doing nothing and small. And that was hard. It was so hard every day for months just to try, like, I know this is the way out. It's really hard and I have to do it. There's no other
Yeah.
way.
But you had different knowledge by this point as well. Like you didn't have that before. Now there's encouragement and groups and people and
Yeah.
strategies and stuff that is saying, no, this is the way to do it. And other people have healed this way. So it
Yeah.
gives you such a boost, doesn't it? Like I must try this. There's no really any way around it. I've got to try it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is helping, I think it's important to share for me what helped so much
Yeah,
so that
definitely.
help hopefully other people will see tidbits
Yeah,
that
go for it.
helpful for them. So besides really working on that mindset shift of just keeping trying, mindset of indifference. Oh, and before I go on, that makes me think of when I started exercising. It's hard, right? And your body responds in pain often.
Yes.
So for me, I tried to adopt Dan Buglio's advice and approach when I would start to try to do squats, which I was terrified of, and I would just go like a quarter of the way down. I would say, I'm okay. Like, I'm good. And I
Yeah.
just do it and come back up. I'm good. I'm good. And so just like trying to soothe the brain while you're doing things that might scare it. But I think also the biggest thing, which I hear a ton of people talk about, and I remember messaging you about this, like when that flare comes, when the nervous system gets so spooked, oh my God, she did squats, she did all these things,
Yeah.
some pain, um, really trying very hard. to be indifferent at that point because up here, okay, it's okay. My body's doing what it's gonna do. It's trying to keep me safe. And the more we can be like, whatever, I see what you're doing. What, like, I'm just gonna go do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
But like, that's the hardest thing, I think, when you're going through it.
Yeah, it's fearful. It's still every flare is fearful. You think you've fallen back into it, don't you? Yeah, natural. Yeah.
But
It's
I think
a process, isn't it?
yeah, it's totally a process. And I think the more we can say just to ourselves, like, I'm okay. Like, I totally know why I flared up. I tried that new move and my system's scared. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I get you. It's okay, Um, so I think the other thing that's important for me, I think having TMS education, podcast, books, whatever, in front of me all the time, I kind of feel like we need that until we are healed, until we're well. I think it's one thing to understand the principles on an intellectual level, but I do feel like we need that constant recording or whatever drilled.
Yeah, the reminders. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's one thing to know the information and then be like, oh, I know what to do. I don't need to listen to any podcasts. I don't need to read any books. But if we stop having that consistent exposure to the TMS education materials, I don't think it's smart to, and I'm not saying have it in front of you all the time, right? Because we don't want to become obsessed, but I think a constant drip, like drip
agreed.
into your brain.
Yeah.
I feel like until symptoms are gone, I think that's
necessary. I think that's the same for me. I refer to it sometimes as like learning a new language. So you might go to school and learn the language, the basics of the language, but if you're not exposed to it, you're not reminded and practicing, then I'm still watching Dan's videos and listening to Nicole's podcast now and still learning stuff.
Yep.
So there's always room for reminders. And I think, like we say this a lot, that you need to hear something 100 times before it sinks in, before your brain actually goes, oh, okay, I get it. And then you might drift off and forget again and not do any of the work. And then you get a flare up and you go, oh shit, maybe I should watch a couple of videos and just like remind myself what I'm doing. It's natural, I think. Good point.
Yeah. So I think that's really important. My schedule or time invested in doing all that is different now, but I still do it like on a daily or basis. Yeah. Like for me, I would always go down and make lunch, and while I'm making my salad, I would put Dan's daily video. I just set him on the corner and listen while I'm making my lunch, and that would be like my daily drip.
Yeah. Same.
Somewhere like fitting it into your routine where it's not like, oh, I have to sit or take time out of my day, but
no.
Listen while you're doing something else.
Yeah. So what would you say was the most kind of crucial changing or like modality that you did, or what was the work for you that you think had the most positive effect? And it doesn't have to be one thing. Like, it's not a trick question. It can be.
Trying to think. I think a combination of attitude, so mindset of that indifference, because that helps turn down the fear.
Yeah.
Along with the outcome independence and just getting excited about trying new things, no matter how it turned out. And then the other part I think is really important. You and I already talked about, which I call an evidence journal. And I would just write down each date, and then I would write next to it something which was like an accomplishment for me.
Yeah.
Usually it was like whatever my workout was. I might write 4 hours in the yard, or friend's house for 5 hours. Like being away at a friend for that long is just like, whoa. Or
like not napping today or something you had, didn't you, as well? Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so I think it's important for our brain to see the evidence. Oh my God,
Definitely.
I did that, I did that, I did that, and then look back and see everything you did. And you did all that in a month. Whoa! And so it's really good proof
Yeah,
for your brain, and your brain needs that proof because it's just like a scared kid. It doesn't want to believe it, and
for
then
real.
it's the proof, and it's like, oh, cool, I did do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And your brain will always go to the place that is the easiest and safest place. So the fear and the, oh, I'm not getting better and it's not happening for me and all that kind of stuff. Like that's just the natural state of your mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
So to have that evidence in front of you was, yeah, equally as beneficial to me as it was to you. You could see, even if they're not so frequent, you know, you've got months between your notes to yourself, but there is definite progress and you can't deny that once it's written down.
yeah, you can see that upward trend
Yeah,
overall. The other thing, Danny, I think is key, was enrolling in school for me because
yeah,
we have talked about putting a goal out there.
yes.
Because it's one thing when you're kind of walking day by day through this drudgery of TMS and trying to figure it out and just do all the TMS work and try to help yourself. But once we start putting goals that are kind of bigger than ourselves, and we put them out there in the future
Mm,
to work toward, it really it takes that focus, that intense focus off the internal because you're working on something external.
yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah.
you're working through something else, and so your brain is happily in another spot, and
Mm.
it's not focused on your body.
Exactly, and it's exciting, isn't it? It's like the unknown. It's a little bit kind of unsure, but it's exciting and it's new. And it's like a lot of people that I've spoken to in these conversations. It becomes your passion. This subject becomes it's your world. But now it's not your world because it's your pain. It's your world because it's like this information is so important.
That is
I
just
can do something with this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing.
yeah.
So
So for
where does that? Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, so for me, it was like it was in the fall, and I don't even think I hadn't even gotten to the point where I didn't need to nap anymore. I was still doing naps. I was still fatigued, but it was almost like the only thing I can explain is like an inner knowing
Yes.
that this work is going to work.
Yes. I
I
love
hadn't
that.
been proof yet. I mean, like little things, but it was a big leap of faith and it was an inner knowing. Um, and it was taking that leap of I signed up for school to work on mind body practitioner and
Hmm.
holistic lifestyle nutrition coach
Amazing.
because I just thought regardless this work is important. The mind, the study of the mind and how it impacts our body, regardless of if I transform to this wonderful new
Yeah,
improved.
yeah.
I hoped I would.
Mm.
Um, and so it was a weird leap of faith because I hadn't gotten to the point I wanted to be, but I knew it was important to,
Hmm.
to invest and step out there. Um, the other thing before I forget, and we can come back to school, is for books, like I think it's important, of course, to read about TMS and study about TMS for the education. For me, I just wanted to share that I also expanded that and I did a couple Bible studies that combine neuroscience and scripture.
Oh,
And
wow.
and it showed how brain science and how the pain science and how we heal and the body's innate way of healing is reflected in scripture already. And me, as a believer in God, that was super important to me to be able to
Mm.
take both things I loved and see the Mary of both of them.
Yeah, amazing.
And so one book was incredibly important. It's called Fully Alive by Susie Larson. The other one you may have heard of, Dr. Caroline Leaf.
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, she's a Christian neuroscientist. So
No, I've
she's
not
got
heard of her.
she's got so many titles behind her. It's mind blowing. But she does, YouTube blurbs, and
Right,
she again explains the workings of the brain and the pain, and she melds it in with scripture and just explaining the body's ability to heal, and that's who God created us to be. Well, He created us
right,
whole.
right.
Yeah. So for me, so her book is called Switch On Your Brain, and
Mm-hmm.
she explains all about the brain workings, and I just wanted to point that out in case there are other people that are kind of looking for that
Yeah, that
confirmation.
connection. Yeah. Well, I
And
definitely think as well, and I was going to mention this, that I definitely think that for you and wherever this goes for you, if that's where your passion lies as well in Christianity and stuff, I think that there's a possibly like a massive niche for you there
yeah,
to approach this work in that way. If that's where your passion is, then why not try and pursue it in that way?
yeah, I think so too, because school, right now I've gotten through all the coaching part of the business and
Mm.
like, okay, all the principles of coaching. Right now, I'm knee deep in the mind body, the neuroscience, which I love, and eventually next will be all the nutrition stuff, and
Yeah,
then comes all the instruction on business, finding a niche, building your business, marketing it, whatever.
yeah, having a niche is
And
important.
yeah, it's kind of in my brain. It's just kind of become apparent that okay, I have this love for teaching people about TMS, and my faith,
Yeah.
and how studying God's word and the TMS stuff together seem to be the healing mechanism for me.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so
if that resonates with you, then listen to that intuition and go with it. Like it sounds like the perfect way to apply a niche to this. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of people of faith that are in this community. I mean, there must be. Um, so where would you say you are now then? I mean, I know you're doing your course and you're learning and stuff like that. Where are you? I mean, you've said to me before that you're not quite like out of the woods. You still have
yeah,
some symptoms and stuff, but are you?
yeah.
You're completely happy that like you're there now, right? You're
I feel, I mean, it's such a big leap from where I was. Um, when I look back and I remember the really dark times when I begged God to take me in my sleep,
mm,
and recently, last year when I started doing better, I just kind of thought, God was saying, well, I couldn't take you. That wasn't your time because
yeah,
you have all this work to do now. Uh,
yeah.
and so for me, yes, I still have some lingering back stuff when I sit, but gosh, I can sit in a chair now for hours.
I know, right? You've been sitting here for an hour and you've not flinched. Not that I've noticed.
um, I just wanted to share really quick. We just had to go halfway across the country for my husband's grandfather's service. And gosh, that was 20 hours to get there in a car.
Wow.
Then while we were in town, we drove another 5, and then we drove 20 back.
My God, what?
So, Danny, like, I almost didn't go.
I can imagine
I was, and the whole angst around the trip, the fear, the
the
knowing I had to
COVID and stuff
for
as
my
well. Yeah,
husband, the COVID.
yeah.
So I'm pretty damn excited to say I just sat in a car for 45 hours, and here I could hardly sit a year ago without a cushion.
I
So
mean, if that's not proof, then I don't know what is.
yeah, that's
That's
big.
amazing.
And no more naps. Uh,
Yay.
Not to say I'm not human and don't get, yes, I still get tired sometimes. And sometimes I'll lay down and meditate for 20, 30 minutes in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I try not to feel guilty like I used to for so long when I was sick. I try to shift that mindset to go, oh, my body needs, it needs a
Yeah.
little meditation and a little rest. So
a bit more self-compassion in there. Yeah.
yeah, I'm working on that big time because
Yeah, same.
it doesn't come naturally, you know.
Yeah,
I
same.
still, I still have some weird things. I still have like I can't lay on my ear. I have a special pillow for it, and I'm still trying to lay on my other shoulder, and my toes are numb from 2 years ago from an injection I got, which Dr. Stracks and Schubiner said, I think it's TMS.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm still like praying and hoping that just with the continuation of the work, my nervous system will still keep just like
Yeah.
down.
It's a slow process, and considering how much stuff you've been through and how many symptoms you've had, and the different traumatic events along the way, and it just builds up. Like it does, like Nicole says, it takes you a while to walk out of the forest if it took you however
Yeah,
long to get in there,
yeah. And
Yeah.
I didn't really, it's hard because you want to compare yourself to other stuff, right? But I think it's
Yeah.
important for people listening to remember exactly what you said. Like, I've been dealing with this stuff for 17 years, and I have noticed it seems like some people that have a shorter interim of symptoms
Yeah.
seem to rebound quicker back to
Mm.
health.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's the rule, but I just want people to be patient with themselves because
Mm.
we can really mess ourselves up by saying, well, she got better faster.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. There's a lot of factors that are involved in that, but definitely you just don't know. And like you say, outcome independence, you can apply that to the time frame of your recovery as well. Like
yeah,
we're recovering, we're healing. Let's just see however long it takes, whatever. But your life is just completely turned around. Even in
and
the
I,
time that I've known you, it's like dramatic.
yeah. And I think that's the key, right? Is
Yeah.
focusing on look at all the good and all the changes and
Yeah.
focus on that because that's going to help me recover more than thinking
Mm.
about, oh, on my toes, my ear, my
Yeah.
hip, you know.
Exactly. It takes a while to get that though, doesn't it? It takes a while to stop obsessing and freaking out over everything.
It does.
Um, yeah, it just takes
And
a bit of time.
for me, I think I got the true relief and like celebration inside when I realized my fatigue had lifted because
Yes,
Danny, like
that was the big thing for you, wasn't it?
I don't see a lot of people talk about chronic fatigue in the community.
No.
And even though I rationally understood because I had fibromyalgia, I was like, okay, well, this should work for me because it worked for other people. And Sarno said fibromyalgia is TMS.
Mm.
But you just didn't hear stories of people healing from fatigue. Like, yes, a little here, a little there, but not like pain and
Right, right.
GI stuff. So to be that beacon of light about the fatigue to other people, like
Yeah,
that's
it's massive.
kind of my mission right now.
Yeah, it's massive, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like, certain people that go on to coach or that go on to kind of work in this industry, it's like if you do that becomes your almost part of your niche as well, that you can approach people based on your own experience and your own symptoms, even though we know that the symptoms are symptoms, whatever in TMS, it gives
Totally.
you a direct connection with people that have a similar kind of symptom
Yeah.
set, or you've got that
Absolutely.
direct experience. I think that really matters, and it's good to just like address what people have been through as well. I think it doesn't matter what symptoms you have, but people really feel seen when you can
Relate.
acknowledge what they've got. Yeah, exactly.
I think you can kind of like relate, then they feel like
Yeah.
or like they feel hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my vision is to really just kind of when I get my coaching certification, which will be by the end of the year, be a mind body practitioner, is just really combine that fitness and the mind
Mm.
body tools and the coaching and just treat that whole person. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we've all been treated symptoms, like we're sick of that.
Mm.
But if I can help people, you know, help their mind heal and then help them go from being immobile and scared and like teach them how to work out again safely, then I'm
Yeah.
treating the whole person.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Love that.
That's my vision.
So excited for you. That's so cool.
Thank
It's
you.
so amazing to see how
It's
far you
crazy.
come. Huh?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
it's crazy.
I feel so blessed to be like to see a massive shift and then to be able to use it for good.
Yeah, for sure. I totally relate to that. It's an amazing
Thank you.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Yes. Oh, thank you so much for coming and talking about this, Stacey. I really appreciate the detail that you've given, and it's such a tragic kind of amount of time and stuff that you suffered through, but you've come out sunny side up,
Yeah.
and it will continue to get even better. And hopefully now that you're in kind of like the home straight, it will happen a lot quicker, this last part for you, just shaking off the last remnants of TMS that you've got. But like you say, like even if stuff creeps back or you get flares, you're not fearful of it anymore, and it doesn't control your life anymore. So blips will come and go, but it won't matter.
Yeah, like here's a good example. So when we were moving into our new house, I got a back spasm, and I think I posted it on one of the groups, and I was like this, my spine, and it lasted for like 11 days, and I was terrified. And then a month or two after we moved into the house, it happened again, and I was like, oh, I know what this is. And then I kind of looked at it. I was like, oh yeah, I see you. And then as much as it hurt, I was like, well, I'm going to go vacuum now. And I vacuumed the whole entire house, and it was gone.
Wow.
It was gone 80% within 2 days.
Amazing.
That's just the power of our attitude and our mindset, how it reflects in our body.
1,000,000%. It's amazing.
It's so cool.
Oh, thank you so much, Stacey. Huh?
I've loved chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for taking the time to do it. I really appreciate it. It's going to help a lot of people.
I just wanted to share too where people could find me if they want on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's all one word. It's mind, body, faith, fitness.
Yeah, brilliant. We can put it in the notes as well. Put it in the video notes, and in the page that we put the video on the website. We'll link up all your stuff in there so people can find you. And
sharing my story.
Yeah. People could reach out to you directly to ask you questions and stuff if that's all right with you. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Brilliant.
Thank you, Danny. You're so lovely, and I've loved watching your story, and you have inspired me to just, to step out in my fitness, to not be afraid, and just to know that there's this whole community there that, like-minded, like we're all working on it together.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for being there for me from the beginning when I was like messaging you, and now people are messaging me with questions.
Yeah.
And it's all about paying it forward.
Like,
yes, I can help this person. Danny helped me.
You can do it.
Exactly. Paying it forward. So
exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on, Stacey. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited to see where this goes for you. Keep in touch, and maybe when you've got your certificate and stuff like that, and you start doing the coaching, you can come back on and we can catch up again and see how that's going.
I would love that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, darling. Okay. We'll see you soon. Bye, Stacey. What a sweet lady. What story. Oh my God. I've taken so many notes. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. It's a bit of a long one today, but it's usually completely worth it. There's always some nuggets of information there that can help people. So I'd rather let the conversation go, keep running until we run out of story to tell, because you never know what kind of light bulb you might get from the part of the conversation. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to submit your own story to this series, you can go to my website. It's mytmsjourney.com/stories, and there's a form there. You can submit your information to take part in this, and also find all of the other stories and interviews and success stories on there. And hopefully this has resonated with you, and it's going to help you in your healing journey. And you can find me on Instagram, on My TMS Journey, or Facebook, or YouTube, or all the things. And I think that's probably enough from me for one day. I wish you a lovely rest of your day, and follow me on social and we can continue the conversation there. All right, thank you. See you in the next one.